Midweek Pictorial, July 1st, 1920. Photo caption: Seeing New York from hotel roof on horseback. Miss Helen Bonham of Wyoming with her pony, Star, on the roof of the Hotel McAlpin, New York. Panther airplane with emergency landing gear, one of the features of the Air Force section of the exhibition. It is so contrived that the pilot, when flying, can release the wheels and inflate floats for landing on the water. If the war has produced untold loss and misery in many ways, it has not been without some compensating features, slight as these may seem in comparison. One of the most important of these is the impulse that has been given to aviation. Under the stimulus of war, an immense development has taken place in air navigation, and now that war no longer requires the use of airplanes, commerce is claiming them for its own uses. The post office department of our own country, as well as of others, has found them of great service in the carrying of mails, and private companies are employing them in increasing numbers for freight and passenger service. Most of the great cities of Europe, notably London, Paris, and Rome, have fleets of planes that convey cargoes and passengers from point to point with a celerity that far outdistances that of trains or steamers. Some of them are luxuriously equipped. There is no dust, no jar, and little noise except that from the engine, and the scenic features are incomparable. Photo caption: New Vickers Vimy commercial plane that has just been completed for the London-Paris air service. It has all the comfort and luxury of a modern Pullman car, as can be seen at a glance. The service between London and Paris is now carried out on a regular schedule, speedily and safely. The Vickers Vimy planes here shown are being built for commercial use, but the especially interesting feature connected with them is that they are being built for the Chinese government. They will have limousine bodies for the comfortable conveying of passengers. China is rapidly becoming modernized. Opening of the yachting season in Chicago with the 29th annual Michigan City Cruising Race. The combined fleets of the Columbia, Chicago, and Jackson Park yacht clubs participated. There was a heavy northeast swell running, and the race was full of spirit and action. How Gaston Chevrolet appeared after winning the 500-mile International Sweepstakes automobile race at Indianapolis, May 31st. For nearly 6 hours, he had driven steadily at the rate of 88.16 miles an hour. When he was through, he seemed like a man who had been poisoned. His face was haggard, his eyes colorless, his muscles cramped and distorted. He was utterly exhausted. New 10-passenger flying boat, the Aero Marine, that was christened by Governor Edwards of New Jersey at the plant of the Aero Marine Plane and Motor Company at Keyport, New Jersey, June 22nd. The governor used real champagne for the christening. The craft is the largest civilian passenger flying boat in America. It has a wingspan of 103 feet, a hull 50 feet long, and has two 400-horsepower Liberty motors. The Gasoline Goat, the name given to a novel vehicle belonging to William Wrigley of Chicago. It consists of a fast-traveling tractor. Hitched to it are two trailers. It is here shown being tried out on the hills of Catalina Island, California, which are steep and hard to climb. But the Gasoline Goat is doing it without difficulty, and carrying with ease a heavy load of passengers. Close-up view of Vesuvius, showing the famous volcano in one of its restless moods. The photographer who took the picture, Major James A. Mills of New York, ran the danger of having the emulsion melted off his plates. The view was taken from a point close above the molten lake of lava surrounding the inner cone of Vesuvius. Every few minutes, showers of lava and hot stones were ejected from the crater, and the work was perilous. a study in expressions among the natives of the desert oasis of Sidi Oqba. In front are the children of the tribe, while their elders are stationed in the rear. Ireland has had many sporadic revolts since the Easter Insurrection of 1916, but nothing approaching in gravity the battle now raging in Londonderry between bodies of nationalists and unionists. The normal life of the city is reported as having been suspended. The quays being under fire, the workers there have had to quit their work and seek the shelter of their homes. Shots are fired not singly, but in volleys. Thousands of factory workers do not dare to go out of doors. Mail service has been held up, and none whatever was delivered on June 21st. As soon as the troops stop disturbances in one quarter, they break out in another. Vehicles have been withdrawn from the streets, and shops and banks are closed. A reign of terror prevails. The local police force is powerless, and the troops have not been able to restore order. Photo caption: Londonderry, showing its port facilities and the great bridge that is one of the features of the town. The place is now practically the seat of civil war. Armed bands patrol the streets, taking shots at each other when they meet. Many have been killed and more wounded. Traffic is dangerous, and the regular delivery of mail has been suspended. One of the streets in Londonderry, capital of the county of the same name in Ireland, and the seat of some of the most serious of the recent disorders. 1st Battalion of the Devonshire Regiment, ready for embarkation at Devonport on the steamer Tsaritsa for Ireland. Troops are pouring across in steadily increasing numbers, and it is now estimated that at least 60,000 are stationed in various parts of Ireland. The problem of transportation has been complicated by strikes of dockyard workers, who have refused to handle munitions destined for Ireland, and in consequence, the engineers and other units have had to take part in loading and unloading. In addition to the infantry, considerable bodies of cavalry have been sent to Ireland. Oak Grove House in Mid-Cork, which was burned to the ground on June 5th. Arson is prevalent all over Ireland. Some of the defenders of Kilmallock Barracks, which had to sustain a heavy attack by a band of Sinn Féin raiders. Scenes of great activity on the dock at Devonport, where troops and wagons and military supplies are being loaded on the Tsaritsa, destined for Ireland. 700 additional troops were landed on Irish shores on June 21st, and not a day passes without a marked increase in the forces that are now holding Ireland under military control. Martial law has not yet been proclaimed, but it has been threatened, and the tension between the British authorities and the Sinn Féin adherents is steadily tightening. Typhus is one of the most deadly diseases in the whole range of maladies. It has passed under many names, such as camp fever, jail fever, spotted fever, and putrid fever. It is due largely to malnutrition and unsanitary conditions, and usually follows in the wake of war. It has been especially malignant in the east and south of Europe, and the toll it has demanded can be counted in millions. After the bombardment of Narva, one of the chief towns of Estonia, by the Bolsheviks, the wretched inhabitants were reduced to a terrible state of destitution. The winter was hard, and they had little food or water or fuel or drugs. The American Red Cross did all they could to help the afflicted people as soon as they could get access to the region, and concentration camps were arranged for where the sick could get adequate nourishment and medical treatment. In a short time, the daily mortality shrank from 50% to 1%. Native women joined the Red Cross nurses in caring for the sick, and many paid the penalty of their devotion with their lives. Photo caption: Convalescents at the typhus camp at Narva taking their morning stroll in front of the barrack that has been turned into a hospital. Their heads are closely shaven, as the hair is one of the most active agents in spreading the disease. Estonian nurses, who have risked their lives to save those of the partly recovered patients, among whom they are standing. The work of these devoted women has been beyond all praise or recompense. The risks they take are deadly. Wire barriers behind which the inmates of the fever camp at Narva are compelled to stay, so that the dreaded infection may not be conveyed to others. At the height of the epidemic, as many as 500 sometimes died in a day. Shattered wreck of the sailing vessel Retriever of San Francisco lying in the harbor of Papeete, Tahiti. She had been towed into port after having been abandoned by her master and crew. She carried a valuable cargo of lumber. Model city of San Osvaldo being constructed under the supervision of the Italian government. The buildings are of stucco and are designed for workmen. There will be wide streets and ideal sanitary conditions. The place was once the scene of a terrible powder explosion with many fatalities. Marshal Foch and General Wigon, leading military figures at the Allied conference at Ypres and Boulogne, regarding enforcement of peace terms. Delivery by Germans of cattle to the inhabitants of the formerly occupied countries. Some are here seen on their way to a central depot, from which they will be shipped to France and Belgium. They are sent back in restitution for cattle taken by the Germans while they held these districts under their rule. The signing of the peace treaty was one thing, but the enforcement of its terms has proved quite another. In some respects, Germany has met the demands imposed upon her by the Versailles Treaty, but in others she has been evasive and dilatory. The French complain bitterly that many provisions have been treated as a dead letter. The diminution of the German army to the required limit of 100,000 men has not been carried out, and there are vast quantities of guns and supplies, especially airplanes, that have not been delivered to the Allies as promised. To enforce the terms, the Allies have recently met at Ypres and Boulogne and held a serious conference, at which the matters in question have had prolonged discussion. It is stated that a strong letter has been drafted to Germany by Field Marshals Foch and Wilson, demanding the reduction of the German army to 100,000 men before July 10th, on pain of further occupation of German territory. Photo caption: Horses gathered at a depot in Germany, specified by the Entente, to be inspected, and if found satisfactory, to be sent to the French and Belgians to replace stock taken away during the war. Times Square, New York, at the juncture of Broadway and 42nd Street. At no time during the day or night is it destitute of many passers-by, and during business hours it is a surging mass of humanity, while the din of traffic is loud and continuous. Corner of State and Madison Streets, Chicago. The people of that city claim that it is the busiest corner of the world, but the same claim is made for other cities, perhaps with equal justice. Chicago's main business district is nearly all in the Loop District, and on that account, the congestion is enormous. The streets are wide, but at times they are crowded almost from the buildings to the curbs, and it is difficult to thread one's way through the throngs. Broad and Market Streets, Newark, New Jersey. While not among the very largest of American cities, it has been said that more people pass this spot in a given time during business hours than any other point in America. Place de l'Opéra in Paris. In the background is the great opera house that is one of the glories of the French capital. The place in front is the most congested spot in the metropolis, rivaling Piccadilly in London. Piccadilly, the busiest spot in the city of London. It is famous the world over, and no one who has not seen it can say that he has seen London. By day and night, it is one of the most crowded spots in the world. Tokyo, Japan, the largest and most important city of Asia. The principal street is Ginza, here shown. The swarming population of the city creates a condition of congestion at this point that makes progress often slow and traffic exceedingly difficult. The street is not wide by Occidental standards, which complicates the problem of keeping the crowds and vehicles moving. Great marketplace in Moscow, thronged by hundreds of thousands every day. There are countless tents under which wares are exposed for sale, and each has its crowd of customers. It is one of the most picturesque of the busy spots of the world. Members of the Syracuse varsity crew, which won the race in the intercollegiate regatta on Cayuga Lake, Ithaca, New York, June 19th. They beat out Cornell, Columbia, and Pennsylvania, who finished in that order. The margin of victory was a length and a quarter, and it came after a grueling struggle for every foot of the 2 miles. The time was 11:02, 3-5. The victors are holding the shirts of the Cornell crew, who had bet them on the event. William T. Tilden II, one of the finalists in the tennis match for the City of London Championship. The 2 crack American players, Johnston and Tilden, had eliminated all other contestants, and the playoff lay between them. Johnston won from Tilden. W.M. Johnston, American tennis star, who is now champion of the City of London, having won the title by defeating another American, Tilden, in 2 sets out of 3, June 19th. Red Bud and Wisest Fool taking the hurdles in the hopeful steeplechase at Belmont Park Terminal, June 19th. The race was for 2 miles over a brush course, and Wisest Fool, who was favorite, won easily, with earlocked second. Trooping of the Colours at Hyde Park, London, May 6, 1920. This is an annual ceremony in England, and one of great pomp and impressiveness. King George is seen on horseback in the foreground, and a little behind him is the Duke of Connaught, followed by officers of the staff. Interesting picture of Gabriele D'Annunzio in the study of the palace that he occupies at Fiume. It affords a glimpse of the inner character of the most unique figure of Italy. The flowers and the decorations bespeak the poet. They have a bizarre and yet exotic suggestion. Yet D'Annunzio has adamantly proved that he is a man of action and decision. The coster or street vendor is a picturesque figure of London. He has a jargon of his own, a code that seems to him sufficient, and traditions that he strictly observes. Costers are here shown at the Richmond Horse Show, with their donkeys lined up for the inspection of the judges. It is a point of pride on such occasions for each coster to have as many buttons as his clothing will find room for, while his wife or sweetheart wears an enormous hat with the largest feathers obtainable. Concrete ships are no novelty, as a number of them were constructed during the war, when the shortage of lumber made them desirable. That a ship of that character could successfully voyage would a short time ago have been regarded as an absurdity, but it has been proven that they are entirely seaworthy. The accompanying pictures show the launching of the steamer Cuyamaca, just completed at San Diego, California for the U.S. Shipping Board. The vessel is of 7,500 tons and is 434 feet long. She weighs little more than a steel ship of the same size. The cost was $1,100,000. At the time she was launched, her machinery had been installed, which added another 1,000 tons to the weight. A sister ship is nearly ready for launching. Photo caption: Stern releasing triggers of Cuyamaca just before launching. Mark the size of stern and propeller. Concrete oil tanker Cuyamaca of 7,500 tons, launched at San Diego, California by Pacific Marine and Construction Company. Concrete ship going sideways into the water. Note the evenness of the plunge from stem to stern. There was no strain on the great vessel, and the launching was successful in every detail. Indications at present point to a new war in Asia Minor, with the Greeks and the Turks as the contending forces. The Turkish nationalists are under the leadership of Mustafa Kemal, who is acting in nominal defiance of the Turkish government at Constantinople, but it is thought under a secret understanding with it. Kemal has defeated small French forces and has carried out a systematic plan of massacres of Armenians at Marash and other places. He has defied the Allies, and the latter have come to the conclusion that he should be suppressed. As other forces were not available, it is reported that the Greek army has been chosen for the task. This is with the cordial acquiescence of the Greeks themselves, who feel confident that they will be victorious. The Greeks have a well-equipped and disciplined army of 100,000 men, while Mustafa Kemal is said to have about 57,000 under his command, of indifferent material and lacking efficient cannon and munitions. Photo caption: Bird's eye view of Smyrna, principal seaport of Asia Minor, now under Greek control. One of the Greek Royal Guard, a picturesque unit of the army. He is wearing the costume officially known as the modified Albanian. Not all can wear it with the effect desired, and the guard is chosen with this sartorial idea in view. The uniform consists of a jaunty kerchief toque, adorned with a yard-long tassel, embroidered zouave jacket with hanging sleeves, white trunks and flounced skirt, red garters and large pom-poms concealing red slippers. The ensemble is striking. Regiment of the Greek army at Saloniki. The army is well equipped and is said to be confident of its ability to defeat the Turks if the threatening conflict materializes. They will be depended on to do the bulk of the land fighting. News from Russia trickles out slowly, but some features of its daily life are shown in the accompanying pictures. The institutional phase is illustrated by the children being fed at communal centers instead of in their own homes. Most interesting, perhaps, is the Saturday experiment. On that day, individual work is abandoned, and all citizens are required to do whatever work is requisite for government needs. Photo caption: All classes of the population in Petrograd taking a hand in the work of getting paper to the mills. The Soviet government demands that Saturday of each week be laid aside for government work, and nobody is exempt from taking part. Children in one of the towns of Russia being lined up for a meal. The nationalization idea is here shown in one of its features. Whether it is a passing phase remains to be determined. Celebration of the centennial anniversary of the first university established at Petrograd, Russia. The university was founded in 1819 and has at times had as many as 2,100 students in attendance. Its library contains over 70,000 volumes. Royal Air Force section at the Great Exhibition of War Relics, Appliances, and Inventions at the Crystal Palace. The huge building has seldom, if ever, sheltered exhibits of such interest and value. All types of planes from the speedy scout machine to the heaviest bombing machine are on view. Parachutes, machine guns, and all other appliances used by aviators receive adequate space. The latest lessons taught by the war are embodied in the newer classes of planes. Many veteran machines that have done sterling service in the conflict and have histories attached to them add interest to the exhibition. One of the huge guns of the type that helped to bring victory to the Allied cause on exhibition at the Crystal Palace. The enormous size of the breach can be appreciated by comparison with the man standing near it. It is a gun that makes the great building itself seem crowded. It could blow the structure to pieces.